Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of SOC Quarantine Diaries. So nice to have you back with us. Today, we have a special guest with us. That's Kevin Knight, COO of Sci4 Security, which spun out of BAE Systems, where Kevin spent a number of years. And most recently, his role there was Head of Enterprise Managed Security Services. Kevin, thank you for joining us inside SOC Quarantine Diaries.
Hi, Dan.
I've been opening up with my guests because this show started after everything went down. So I've been asking folks how they're doing personally in light of the quarantine. You are in the UK. So how are things there and how are you doing?
Well, personally, I'm fine. I think where I am in the UK is probably one of the least impacted. I'm not in London where it hit kind of initially, and in the countryside there's fewer people, so we're doing okay.
Yeah, and Sci4 is a relatively new venture, and you probably couldn't make it up, right? But the timing of the company has synchronized quite nicely with this emerging quarantine situation. So I'm sure that's posed some challenges. So tell us a little bit about Sci4 and how everything is going there.
Well, I think your summary of challenges is probably correct. We've probably spent the last year taking the business out of BAE Systems. We officially went live on April the 1st. So if you go back in time, that's after the pandemic hit. So we actually went live with 100% of our workforce remote. So a bit of a challenging time, but Sci4 is an MSSP in its own right now. So we took out all the commercial business from BAE Systems. We took the SOC, we've taken the threat intelligence, all the testing engineering side of it, all the project management, the support functions, everything else has come out of BAE Systems and is now run by Sci4. We actually launched our new SOC last week. So we kind of found ourselves on April the 1st homeless, having kind of left BAE, but all of our stuff still in BAE. So we've kind of spent the last few months getting ourselves ready to bring people back to work. Last week I was in Leeds launching that new SOC and bringing people in to kind of show it what it looked like. So yeah, it's been
so the company has one SOC.
We have a SOC in the UK, in Leeds, which is where BAE had their SOC, so we retained all the staff. And then as we are growing, part of our strategy is to kind of replicate that in the US.
So was this a brand new, built from the ground up SOC, or was it a SOC that existed and had to be vacated when all the COVID stuff went down?
So we were in a SOC for BAE, but we vacated those premises. We actually vacated it before Sci4 went live. And what we've done is we've taken an old textiles mill in Leeds. So I think it's about the same age as the US, actually. It's several hundred years old. And then we've gone and built a SOC within that. So kind of old, mashing it together with the new in Leeds city centre.
Mm-hmm. Are there human beings inhabiting that SOC yet, or are folks still remote?
As of last week, we have people inhabiting that SOC, obviously socially distanced. So our capacity is probably about 60% is what we can bring into that SOC at the moment, of which I think at the moment we're probably running at about 30% capacity.
So interesting. So you're a case study example in this. My guess is, and actually I have some knowledge of it, but there's a number of SOCs that had to transition to fully remote, and then and companies had to get kind of used to that. But as businesses restart, we are going to see folks returning to the SOC. So that's what you're experiencing. So what has that been like? Because when you think of a SOC, it's certainly a tight environment, right? Folks are able to huddle around and tap each other on the shoulder.
Yeah, I think for us, a SOC is a fully collaborative environment. You know, I want my analysts to be able to work with threat intelligence, be able to work with testers, be able to work even escalating security issues. I guess where maybe Cypher specifically are different. We started remote, so we actually went live on day one with everybody on Teams. So that collaboration was done remotely. Our challenge now is kind of getting people that have got used to that to be back in the SOC where they can actually not tap each other on the shoulder, but talk from a safe distance apart, but able to kind of collaborate with each other, bring those ideas together, really work through kind of the security incidents that we see. That's the new challenge. Bringing those teams together is becoming quite interesting when they go back into the office.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it's a bit of a reverse challenge because you started remotely. And how are folks finding the transition back to the physical environment, or maybe to it for the first time?
I think it's a mix of both, actually. I think we have some people who have struggled being remote, so bringing them back into the office is quite an exciting time for them. I think it's quite amazing how quickly it becomes the norm that you're working from home. So somebody's saving themselves an hour, 2 hours travel a day, sees it as such a joy. You get that extra time in bed, or you might do a bit more work or something in the day. So they've almost become institutionalized, isn't the right word, but they're kind of thinking, yeah, I just want to be at home, and they're focused on that one. So you do have the challenge with some people who are nervous about coming back into the office, but equally, you know, I can do as much work or maybe more by being at home. So we are facing that challenge. We are waking up to kind of that new world.
Is it your view that a SOC should be in a physical location?
I think there is
which maybe wouldn't even have been a question 4 months ago, right? But now it's
one we've racked our brains with for the last 3 months, believe it or not. I think my answer is there's a time and a place for both. So there are certain roles within a SOC where I think being together, being in that location, particularly as our SOC is customer facing, having the idea that you would clear that glass and a customer would look into the SOC and there'd be nobody in there, it doesn't really convey the value of the service that a customer buys. So therefore, being able to see people in threat intelligence, in content development, in SOC analysis, in doing SOC analysis, security analysis, in doing those roles, I think there is value in being together. And therefore, I can see real value in those roles being in the SOC. But that said, we run our SOC 24/7. So is that value of a security analyst being in the SOC overnight when there's fewer people in there and the customers are very unlikely to come in and visit? Is there as much value in it? The answer is probably no. Do they operate in the same way and have the same access from home? Are we secure in the way that they're set up? Yes. So we will likely move to one where our out of hours team, rather than maybe traveling into the SOC and working through the night, can work from home.
Super interesting point that within a managed security services environment, the SOC provides that visible value prop when you're trying to show customers like, hey, we're here, hey, we're doing a lot for you. Maybe that doesn't matter as much within an enterprise SOC environment, but for an MSSP, having a SOC, having a slick looking setup can go a long way. So that's a great point. And related to those clients and what client environments are seeing, I'll quote a recent survey from our friends at VMware Carbon Black, which reported that 91% of enterprises have reported an increase in attacks since the quarantine started with folks working from home, which is a stunningly high number. And the survey also found that the pandemic has cast light on some other shortfalls within organizations, from their ability to get full visibility to business recovery or disaster recovery and business preparedness, excuse me. So a lot of interesting stats out of that survey. Folks are having a hard time. What are you seeing in terms of your customers?
I think And we see it across social media, right? The number of warnings that come out at the moment around scams, around COVID-19, around people working from home and their different setups and everything else. We are seeing an increase in alerts, in events. As someone running a SOC, that's where you're seeing the increase. When you give those numbers, that's what you're looking at. What I think what we miss is a lot of those organizations that see an increase, they also have enough protection in there, whether it's antivirus or firewall protection or VPNs with users and everything else, where actually, whilst those incidents are happening, most are benign because they've got other protection in place. I think where we see an increase is in certain types of incidents that we're raising. So because people are working from home a lot more, we're seeing kind of certain access to different things because they might be working on their home machine. They might be logging on, but it being a BYOD device and they're at home and therefore they're working on it without maybe the usable acceptance policies that they would have in place in an office. So we see those increases. We see those challenges with customers. We see customers asking us probably more now for the data that maybe we don't raise the incidents on because they want to start trending that information whilst their antivirus has blocked these things, whilst their firewall policies and everything else are in place, whilst their perimeters are secure and their VPNs are all there. We are seeing an increase in the alert volumes. So we're seeing a different customer dynamic as opposed to just what did you tell us about and where is the risk? What didn't you tell us about? Because that's also really interesting to us right now because most of our workforce and those workforces could be in the thousands of people are now remote from us. We're not seeing them, and actually understanding what that environment might look like is equally a risk to the reputation of those organizations. And I think that's where the difference is.
So while most surveys are showing an increase, things could be even worse because of all those blind spots?
I'm not necessarily saying they're worse. I think the increase is logical in terms of how people are operating. Yeah, people operate and work differently at home than they do in the office.
Yeah.
The use of bring your own device these days and people use smartphones and everything else to log on and could be out for a walk with the dog, getting their hour of exercise a day or anything else. How they log on is changing. Therefore, how they work is changing. And I think it's kind of natural. How you are at home is very different to how you are in the office. And I think therefore you're seeing different.
Yeah. So eventually, so you're saying a lot of the rises make sense. Eventually, does the stuff even itself out as organizations, and in your case, with your help, figure stuff out?
I think it depends on the appetite of the organisation. If I'm honest, as organisations move back towards offices, and some will, they'll go back to kind of their normal way of working. As others, like I think I saw Siemens this week, have kind of said, going forward, you can work wherever you like. They will face new challenges, and therefore they will have to start putting in different user policies about what's acceptable, particularly while you're working on their projects and their programs. I think there are. It's a new world. You know, it changes what an MSSP will do. For example, we will start working with customers on the right setup for their organisations, as much as we will start talking to them about what feeds we would take to protect them.
Cyber criminals are always adjusting their tactics and are going to where the money is. So I'm sure they're seeing quite a bit of opportunity now in light of all this remote work going on and companies being unprepared for it.
I think what we're seeing, there's a lot more focus on the end user now. So phishing attacks, rocketing, we're seeing that in the press. We see that. I think because of things like COVID-19, there's a real simple topic to try and target those individuals with. I think with social media, you're able to kind of track down and play on those email addresses of which most companies will use, right? You'll normally play on the first and last name. And therefore building something and mimicking a manager in that business and asking for certain credentials around COVID-19 protection and things like that. They are rocketing. We're seeing that across the board, whether you're an enterprise customer all the way down to small business. So I think there is a lot of opportunity for kind of the nefarious activity, let's say.
Yeah, for sure. And so how are organizations responding, or how should they be responding? You know, I've heard of some creative ways that customers of Simplify are responding by creating workflows and playbooks to deal with some of these emerging risks. What do you suggest? Or how are you helping?
I think again, it depends on the appetite. There are real simple. You could go as simple as Office 365, okay, and you can set it up so that anything coming external gives you a different colored text, so that you know it's not the person. Maybe it's not your CEO that's sending you an email, but somebody pretending to be them on the outside. That's a simple one to cover with O365. I think in terms of where we are and the work we're doing, particularly in consultancy, we're doing a lot of training around phishing campaigns and the sorts of things to check. So check the title page, check the header information, check where it's come from. Don't just assume because you've got somebody asking you for COVID-19 details and wanting to protect you and your next of kin and things like that, that it's coming from a reliable source. And I think that is one of the challenges that we're facing in this new world. People are seeing more of these. They are becoming more regular in terms of these types of tests that people are hitting you with. I get them on email. I would imagine I get several every week. And you do, you find yourself sitting there questioning it all the time, even reliable sources. But actually, that's probably the new way of working, actually checking these sources. You've got to think about the data and the information that you hold. Therefore, the more access to things you have, the greater the risk that you bring to your business. And whether that's someone sending it to your personal email, whether that's someone finding out information about you. I mean, we have people who can go out there and find information about organizations and individuals within it, so that we can actually come there and highlight the risk around bribery and things like that. It's a relatively simple area to go to, and right now it's a hot topic.
So what burden is there on the SOC team itself to address some of these things?
I think where the SOCs today benefit, and we certainly do, we benefit from the SOAR setup and the content development that we put in place. We've had to build new content in there around the ways that people are working. I think we've put in things like enhanced monitoring on key users within an organization in terms of what's happening with them and the sorts of things that they're doing. I think that's enabled our customers to kind of manage the risk and the reputational risk that is there to them. I think we'll see more of that. I think as you become more senior in an organization, I think you have to be ready for the fact that your business is going to have more visibility of kind of the actions you take on your network. I think that's just the way that the world's going to be now as we start working more remotely. My role as a COO, I would be very surprised if in the real short term we aren't setting it up that people can basically see that I've been into these folders and everything else, and it gets flagged to the side.
As businesses restart, what would you recommend SOC teams need to be doing when they're returning to the office and when a number of other employees are returning to the office? Are there any steps that you need to be taking?
In regards to what? In regards to when you say SOC teams, you mean my team or you mean business? And
yeah, I guess in SOC teams in general, in concert with the greater security team, in concert with the IT team. I would imagine there's things you need to be thinking about if you're, because I think we're at the point, at least in some places, maybe where you went remote and now you're transitioning back to an office. So what do you need to be doing, thinking about there?
I think from a technical point of view, my answer would probably be very little, actually. I think other than how you collaborate remotely, then if you're doing this correctly, your security setup is probably the same. I think a lot of hygiene
with 6 feet between people, right? That might be the only real big difference.
Yeah, that might be the way of doing it. But I think that's the change, right? The change is going to be the hygiene factors.
Yeah.
Because what you're used to is kind of everybody being in the office and coming together and working through a problem. And remotely, you've had to do that on Teams. Whilst the IT and the technical setup is fine, dropping that back into the SOC, that's kind of the norm. How you operate with a person who's 10 feet that way is about to change, because having a conversation, particularly in a customer environment like ours, where customers might be calling in and trying to work with us on different things, you can't have a conversation with somebody 6 feet apart while someone else who's 6 feet away from you is talking to a customer that isn't the topic of your conversation. You have to maintain that security. So I think that's where our challenge will be as an MSSP, is we have to protect our customer environment. Whilst we might talk in that environment, whilst customers aren't in that environment, there are people in there who do talk to customers, and therefore we've got to be really mindful of that, and potentially some of that collaboration will take place in a secure room going forward rather than maybe in the open SOC.
Yeah, I think that's a spot on answer. I think that it's not there's no technical granular. It's just, hey, it's a hygiene thing, right? It's just going to be different in how
I think it is. It's the hygiene that will change how we work, and it's the things we don't necessarily think about that we take for granted. How we talk to another analyst, how we talk to a principal, how we talk to a content developer.
So maybe that's the answer for my final question here today. It's that, looking ahead, how, say we're 5-10 years ahead, how will we look back at COVID-19 and say, this is how it changed security and security operations?
That's an interesting question, actually. I think...
And just if I could add one thing, silver linings as well, right? Maybe companies get better at preparing for these huge disruptions.
I think if we, and I include Cypher in this, I think what we do is we look at how we've operated in this time. I think people have spoken about working from home a lot over the years and never really embraced it as a business. I think we have business continuity plans and disaster recovery centers and things like that. We have premises, companies have premises all over the world. A building in London costs millions of pounds to rent for a year. And I think businesses are starting to look at it and say, do I need all of that? Do I need a disaster recovery center is the obvious one, because actually I've just proven that my guys can work from home. I need the technical capability to set up and have the infrastructure in place, but other than that, people can be remote. And I think we will see a lot more of that. Even for us, whilst the SOC is there, and we will dedicate spaces to things like security analysts, principal analysts, content developers, threat intelligence. We have customer-facing account managers and roles like that also sit in the SOC. We will likely run that SOC with probably about 200% capacity for those types of roles, because people won't be in. I don't need to expand the SOC. I don't need to expand. I'm based in Farnborough, so I'm in a different office from the SOC. I'll probably run a capacity here about 200%. And I think that's what we'll find. Remote working isn't just going to be something that goes away once all the restrictions are lifted and we can get back to some normality of life. I think remote working has become the normality of life. Whether it's Siemens, whether it's large organizations that are right now saying, regardless of what happens, you aren't in the office until 2021. There are these organizations that will be probably at a point where their leases are up on their buildings, and it will be, do I need that? Therefore, I'll move away from that one and have a much smaller location, and everyone can work from home when we come in with these teams for key projects or other aspects of it. But it won't be everybody. And I think the challenge will be, how do you bring those teams together? The one thing I would say about the SOC when everyone is there, the learning capability of everybody, whether you're an analyst wanting to learn threat intelligence, or whether you're a content developer wanting to learn about threats that are coming in the incidents, being able to be together and collaborate is a key aspect of driving our business and developing their careers. We have to find the new way of doing it.
And to plug SOAR technology, that does provide that collaboration capability to be able to, for analysts and such, to be able to chat.
Yeah, I think in terms of, I mean, we as you know, we make a big play on SOAR. I think in terms of where SOAR provides its single pane of glass, the collaboration, where we're trying to take it with enrichment and things like that, there's lots of things in there that allow me to develop people. So it's an important tool set. I think where we take SOAR is how do I turn that around, if you like, and put it into the customer? How do I let you see what we're doing so that you can then start seeing how you working remotely can benefit from the same ways that we do? And I think that's where we'll go with our customers. Yeah.
Kevin, let me close by giving you an opportunity to talk about Sci4 and where folks can learn more.
Yeah, so obviously we launched in April, so we're kind of still putting a lot of things together. As an MSSP, whilst new in name, we're not new in business. We've been around probably since about 2010, just under a different name of BAE Systems. You can find us on sci4security.com. That's our website. It will change over the next couple of months as we redo our branding, but it talks about all the services that we offer. And if it is something that people are interested in, there's a link at the bottom that will just bring you to us, and we'll talk to you about some of the new things that we're bringing to the market. We're not a business that's looking to be the same as other MSSPs. I'm not looking to just be another person in the market. I'm looking to kind of change that view and offer value to our customers and disrupt that market. I think there's better ways of working. We don't see security as something you have. We see security as a service that we provide you. We take it very important, and we work with our customers very, very closely, and that's kind of what we are.
Yeah, and clearly are going to be adjusting and for the times and staying right on top of things. And congratulations to all the new developments happening there. And also, thank you so much for the insights here. I loved our conversation today, so thank you.
No. Thanks for your time.
All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you on the next episode of SOC Quarantine Diaries.